In the vast expanse of space, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless velvet canvas, humanity had finally reached the point of no return. The year was 2147, and Earth's resources were dwindling fast. Desperation had driven scientists to push the boundaries of exploration further than ever before. It was during one such mission that Captain Marcus Reed and his crew aboard the Starship Odyssey stumbled upon something that would change everything. The Odyssey was a sleek vessel designed for deep space exploration, its silver hull glinting under artificial light as it drifted through the cosmos. Marcus stood on the bridge, staring out at the swirling nebula ahead. His heart pounded with anticipation. This region of space had never been charted by human eyes. The scanners had picked up unusual energy signatures emanating from a nearby planet cloaked in shimmering clouds of violet mist. Something about those readings felt alive. "Captain," Lieutenant Ava Chen called from her station, breaking the silence. Her voice carried both excitement and unease. "We're detecting structures on the surface. Artificial ones." Marcus turned sharply, his brow furrowing. "Structures? You mean buildings?" Ava nodded, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. "Yes, but they're unlike anything we've seen. Organic-looking, almost fluid in design. And there's movement, patterns suggesting intelligent life." Marcus hesitated only for a moment before barking orders. "Prepare a landing party. We need to investigate." As the team suited up, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something far bigger than themselves. He chose 3 others to accompany him: Ava, whose sharp mind made her invaluable, Dr. Elias Grant, the ship's xenobiologist, and Sergeant Tanya Rios, their fearless security officer. Each member carried not just equipment but also the weight of curiosity and fear on their shoulders. The descent to the mysterious planet was surreal. As they broke through the violet haze, the landscape below revealed itself in breathtaking detail. Towering crystalline spires rose from the ground, pulsating faintly with soft luminescent hues. Rivers of liquid light snaked between them, casting ethereal reflections onto the sky. It was beautiful and utterly alien. When their shuttle touched down, the air outside registered as breathable, though tinged with an unfamiliar sweetness. Stepping onto the surface felt like walking into a dream. Every step crunched softly against what appeared to be some kind of translucent mineral, glowing faintly beneath their boots. "This place is alive," whispered Elias, crouching to examine the ground. "These formations, they respond to our presence." Sure enough, as he spoke, the crystals around them began to shift subtly, leaning toward the humans as if drawn by their voices. Marcus exchanged a glance with Tanya, who tightened her grip on her weapon. They weren't here to marvel forever. They needed answers. It didn't take long to find them. A path emerged organically from the terrain, leading the group toward a massive structure at the heart of the city. It loomed above them, impossibly tall and intricate, resembling a living organism frozen mid-motion. At its base stood a grand archway, framed by tendrils of golden light. Beyond it lay darkness, but not emptiness. There was a sense of waiting, of expectancy. Before anyone could decide whether to proceed, the darkness stirred. From within the depths of the structure emerged a figure so radiant it took their breath away. She, or it, was taller than any human, her form slender yet commanding. Her skin shimmered like molten silver, catching the ambient light and refracting it into dazzling patterns. Her eyes burned with an inner fire, twin galaxies swirling within their depths. She wore no clothing in the traditional sense, but rather a flowing garment of pure energy that seemed to dance around her body. For a moment, no one moved. Then she spoke, her voice resonating like music woven from stardust. "You have come far, humans," she said, tilting her head slightly as if studying them. "I am Queen Lyra of the Zorathians. Tell me, why do you trespass upon my world?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with authority. Marcus swallowed hard, forcing himself to meet her gaze. "Your Majesty," he began, bowing instinctively despite himself. "We did not know this world belonged to anyone. We are explorers, seeking knowledge and new frontiers." Lyra's expression softened, though it remained inscrutable. "Explorers," she mused. "How quaint. You seek knowledge, Yet your kind often destroys in pursuit of it. Elias stepped forward cautiously. Not all humans are destructive, Your Majesty. Many wish only to understand, to coexist peacefully with other species. The Queen regarded him for a long moment, then turned her attention back to Marcus. And what of you, Captain? What drives you? Marcus straightened, choosing his words carefully. Survival, he admitted. Earth is dying. We came here hoping to find solutions, or allies. At this, Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile, though it held more mystery than warmth. Allies, she repeated. An interesting concept. Perhaps you may prove useful after all. Without warning, the ground beneath them shifted again, rearranging itself into a smooth platform that lifted them upward. The humans gasped as they ascended, the Queen gliding effortlessly beside them. They entered the heart of the structure, a cavernous chamber filled with floating orbs of light and cascading streams of energy. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. Here, Lyra stopped and turned to face them fully. You speak of survival, she said, her tone thoughtful. But tell me, human, would you survive at any cost? Would you sacrifice morality for power? Marcus frowned, unsure how to respond. Before he could answer, Lyra continued, her voice dropping to a whisper that still echoed like thunder. My people ruled this galaxy once, long before your ancestors walked upright. We built civilizations, forged alliances, and brought peace to countless worlds. But peace is fragile, and power corrupts even the noblest hearts. In time, our empire crumbled, not because we were conquered, but because we destroyed ourselves. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over them. Now I stand alone, the last of my kind. My people are gone, their legacy reduced to ruins. Yet the galaxy remains fractured, consumed by greed and war. Humanity, you are young, reckless, and hungry. Perhaps too much so. But perhaps. She trailed off, her gaze locking onto Marcus with unnerving intensity. Perhaps you could help me restore order. Together, we could unite the stars under a single banner. No more conflict, no more suffering. A new era of prosperity, for all beings. The offer hung in the air like a blade poised to strike. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. This was madness. Impossible. And yet, what would you ask of us? He ventured cautiously. Lyra's smile widened, revealing teeth that gleamed like polished gemstones. Rule the galaxy with me, human. Share my throne, and together we shall reshape destiny itself. The room fell silent. The other members of the team exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to trust this dazzling creature or flee while they still could. Marcus, however, found himself unable to look away. There was something intoxicating about her presence, something that stirred ancient instincts buried deep within his soul. But as he opened his mouth to reply, a low rumble shook the chamber. The lights flickered, and somewhere in the distance, a deep, guttural roar echoed through the halls. Lyra's expression darkened, her radiant beauty turning cold and fierce. We are not alone, she murmured, her voice now edged with steel. There are others who covet my power, others who would see me, and you, destroyed. With a wave of her hand, the walls dissolved into view screens, revealing scenes of chaos unfolding across the planet. Strange ships descended from the sky, firing beams of energy that tore through the crystalline spires. Alien creatures poured forth, their forms grotesque and menacing, swarming toward the palace. Lyra's eyes blazed with fury. So be it. If they desire war, they shall have it. She turned to Marcus, extending a hand adorned with rings of spinning light. Will you fight beside me, human? Prove your worth, and I will grant you dominion over the stars. Marcus hesitated, torn between awe and doubt. This was no simple decision. It was a leap into the unknown, fraught with peril and promise alike. But as he looked into the Queen's burning gaze, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever choice he made, there would be no turning back. The battle erupted with a ferocity that defied comprehension. Outside the opulent chamber, the alien invaders surged forward like a tide of darkness, their monstrous forms clashing against the shimmering defenses of Lyra's citadel. Energy blasts lit up the skies, illuminating the violet mist in jagged streaks of crimson and gold. The air trembled with a deafening roar of destruction, but inside the palace, Marcus felt an eerie calm settle over him, a strange clarity born of desperation. Queen Lyra moved with grace and precision, her every gesture imbued with power. With a mere flick of her wrist, she summoned barriers of solidified light to shield them from incoming attacks. Her voice rang out like a symphony as she unleashed torrents of radiant energy, obliterating waves of enemies with devastating efficiency. Yet despite her prowess, Marcus could see the strain in her movements, the subtle flicker in her otherwise flawless facade. She might be immortal compared to humans, but she wasn't invincible. "You must choose quickly," Lyra said without looking at him, her focus locked on the chaos beyond the windows. "Time is slipping away." Marcus clenched his fists, torn between instinct and reason. On one side was the allure of unimaginable power, the chance to save Earth, to bring peace to a fractured galaxy. On the other was the gnawing suspicion that accepting Lyra's offer would bind him to forces he barely understood. Could he trust her? Did he even have a choice? Before he could respond, Sergeant Tanya Rios stepped forward, her weapon raised. "Captain," she said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. "We don't know what's driving these invaders. Maybe they're here for revenge, maybe for conquest, but either way, they're dangerous. If we stay neutral, we're dead." Dr. Elias Grant nodded grimly, clutching a scanner in trembling hands. "And if we side with her, we're committing to something far bigger than ourselves. This isn't just about survival anymore. This is about taking sides in a galactic struggle." Lieutenant Ava Chen added quietly, "Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe this is exactly why we came here, to find a way to change things. To make a difference." Their words swirled in Marcus's mind like fragments of a puzzle refusing to fit together. He glanced at each of them, their faces etched with determination, fear, and hope. They had followed him this far, trusting his judgment. Now, they awaited his decision. "Enough!" Lyra interjected suddenly, her voice sharp enough to silence them all. She turned to face Marcus directly, her luminous eyes boring into his soul. "Your companions debate philosophy while my world burns. I do not require their loyalty, only yours. Will you stand with me, or shall I defend myself alone?" Her words struck a nerve, igniting a spark of defiance within Marcus. For all her majesty, Lyra was demanding more than allegiance. She was asking for blind faith. And Marcus had never been good at following orders blindly. "I'll fight," he said finally, meeting her gaze without flinching. "But not because you told me to. Not because I want your throne. I'll fight because it's the right thing to do, for now." After that, he let the sentence trail off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. Lyra studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, to his surprise, she smiled, a genuine, almost human smile. "Very well, Captain Marcus Reed. Let us see what you are truly made of." With that, she gestured for them to follow her deeper into the palace. The corridors twisted and shifted around them, responding to Lyra's will as if the very structure were alive. They passed rooms filled with artifacts that defied logic, spheres that floated perpetually in midair, emitting soft melodies, walls covered in constellations that shifted and rearranged themselves, and pools of liquid light that pulsed in rhythm with their footsteps. It was as though they were walking through a living museum of wonders, each corner whispering secrets of a civilization long past. Finally, they arrived at a chamber unlike any they had seen before. At its center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a staff radiating an aura of raw energy. The air crackled with electricity, making the hairs on their arms stand on end. Lyra approached it reverently, her fingers brushing the surface of the artifact. "This is the scepter of unity," she explained, her voice hushed with reverence. "It was forged by my ancestors to bind the galaxy under a single rule, a symbol of peace and strength. But it requires a wielder of equal resolve." She turned to Marcus, holding out the staff. "Take it. Use it to aid me in driving back our foes." Marcus hesitated, his instincts screaming caution. There was something unsettling about the scepter, as though it carried a weight far greater than its physical form suggested. Yet he also sensed that refusing would seal their fate, and Earth's along with it. Slowly, he reached out and grasped the staff. The moment his fingers closed around it, a surge of energy coursed through him, lighting up his vision with bursts of color and sound. Memories, not his own, flooded his mind, images of ancient battles, triumphant empires, and cataclysmic falls. He staggered, nearly dropping the scepter, but Lyra steadied him with a firm hand. "It will guide you," she assured him, though her tone carried a note of warning. "Listen to it, and it will show you the path." As Marcus regained his footing, the sounds of battle grew louder. Explosions rocked the foundations of the palace, sending shards of crystal raining down around them. Through the shifting walls, they could see glimpses of the invaders, hulking beasts with chitinous armor and glowing red eyes, led by shadowy figures cloaked in darkness. They moved with purpose, targeting key points of the structure as if guided by some unseen intelligence. "We can't hold them off forever," Tanya muttered, checking her weapon's charge. "They're too many." "They're not fighting randomly," Ava observed, analyzing the data streaming across her visor. "They're trying to breach specific areas, like they're looking for something." Lyra's expression darkened. "They seek the heart of Zorathia," she said grimly. "The core of my people's power. If they reach it, they'll unravel everything I've worked to protect." "And what happens then?" Marcus asked, gripping the scepter tightly. "The galaxy falls into chaos," Lyra replied simply. "And all hope dies with it." Without another word, she led them toward the source of the invaders' assault. Along the way, Marcus experimented with the scepter, discovering that it responded to his thoughts as much as his actions. A flick of his wrist sent arcs of golden energy slicing through approaching enemies, while a focused thrust created a barrier strong enough to repel even the most powerful attacks. It was exhilarating and terrifying. The scepter seemed to amplify his abilities, but it also demanded a price, draining his strength with every use. The closer they got to the heart of Zorathia, the fiercer the resistance became. The invaders fought with ruthless efficiency, their weapons cutting through the palace's defenses like knives through silk. At one point, Marcus found himself separated from the group, cornered by a trio of towering beasts. Just as despair began to creep in, he felt the scepter pulse in his hand, channeling a surge of energy that obliterated his attackers in a blinding flash. When he rejoined the others, Lyra gave him an approving nod. "You learn quickly," she said. "But the true test lies ahead." At last, they reached the chamber housing the heart of Zorathia. It was a colossal sphere suspended in midair, pulsating with a kaleidoscope of colors. Streams of energy flowed into and out of it, connecting it to countless points across the galaxy. Standing before it were the leaders of the invasion force, dark figures clad in robes that seemed to absorb light itself. Their leader, a towering figure with eyes like black holes, turned to face them as they entered. "So, the last of the Zorathians has come to die," the figure sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "And bringing pets, no less." Lyra's expression hardened. "You underestimate us, Kale. As always." Kale laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Do I? Look around you, Queen. Your kingdom is ashes. Your people are dust. All that remains is this relic, and soon it will be mine." Marcus tightened his grip on the scepter, feeling its power resonate with his resolve. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain: the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. And he wouldn't let it fall without a fight. Kale's laughter echoed through the chamber, reverberating off the walls like a sinister hymn. His dark form loomed larger than life, and the shadows around him seemed to writhe and twist as if alive. The invaders behind him shifted restlessly, their glowing red eyes fixed on Marcus and his companions with predatory intent. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, Marcus felt something stir within him, a quiet defiance that refused to be extinguished. Lyra stepped forward, her radiant presence contrasting sharply with Kale's oppressive darkness. "You always were arrogant, Kale," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel. "Do you truly believe you can control the heart? It is not a weapon to be wielded. It is a force beyond your comprehension." Kale tilted his head, his black hole eyes narrowing. "Beyond my comprehension? Perhaps. But I have no intention of controlling it, at least, not directly. He gestured toward the sphere, which pulsed erratically in response to his words. I will shatter it, release its power into the void. And when the galaxy falls into chaos, I will rebuild it in my image. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. Whatever the heart of Zerathia was, its destruction would mean catastrophe on an unimaginable scale. He glanced at Lyra, who stood poised and resolute, her hands clenched into fists. For all her regal composure, he could see the flicker of desperation in her gaze. This wasn't just about protecting her world, it was about preserving the fragile balance of existence itself. You'll never get close enough, Lyra declared, raising her arms. A wave of golden energy surged outward, forming a shimmering barrier between them and Kale's forces. The invaders roared in frustration, pounding against the shield with brute strength and relentless firepower. But even as the barrier held firm, cracks began to form along its surface, spiderwebbing outward like fractured glass. Marcus tightened his grip on the scepter, feeling its hum grow louder in his mind. It wasn't just a tool, it was alive, or at least connected to something vast and ancient. Images flashed before his eyes again, stars collapsing, planets consumed by fire, civilizations crumbling under the weight of despair. And then, amidst the chaos, a single thread of light weaving through the darkness, holding everything together. That light, it came from the heart. We need to stop him, Marcus muttered, more to himself than anyone else. If he destroys the heart. He won't, Lyra interrupted, turning to face him. Her expression softened for a brief moment, revealing a vulnerability that caught him off guard. But I cannot do this alone. You must trust me, and trust yourself. Before Marcus could respond, Tanya stepped forward, her weapon raised. Then let's make our move while we still can, she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. We've got one shot at this. Let's take it. With a nod from Marcus, the team sprang into action. Ava activated a portable EMP device, sending a pulse of electromagnetic energy rippling through the chamber. The invaders' weapons faltered momentarily, giving them a crucial opening. Elias hurled a vial of bioluminescent fluid, a concoction he'd been working on since their arrival, onto the ground. The substance erupted into a cloud of blinding light, disorienting their enemies further. Seizing the opportunity, Marcus charged forward, the scepter blazing with energy. Each swing sent arcs of golden light slicing through the air, carving paths through the advancing horde. He moved instinctively, guided by the scepter's subtle cues. It was as though the artifact knew what needed to be done, feeding him strategies and tactics faster than he could process them. Yet with each strike, he felt a growing fatigue tugging at his limbs, a reminder that wielding such power came at a cost. Behind him, Lyra unleashed her own fury, her movements graceful yet devastating. She conjured whips of pure energy, lashing out at Kale's minions with precision and speed. Her attacks weren't just physical, they resonated on a deeper level, disrupting the invaders' cohesion and sowing confusion among their ranks. Even so, Kale remained untouched, standing calmly at the center of the chaos as if daring them to come closer. Enough games. Kale bellowed, raising his hand. A surge of shadowy energy erupted from his palm, slamming into Lyra's barrier with enough force to shatter it completely. The queen stumbled backward, her composure faltering for the first time. Marcus rushed to her side, steadying her with a firm hand. He's stronger than I anticipated, Lyra admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. The scepter. Use it wisely. Focus its power on the heart. Reinforce its defenses. Marcus nodded, though doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Could he really channel the scepter's energy effectively? What if he made a mistake? The thought sent a spike of panic through him, but he pushed it aside. There was no room for hesitation now. As Kale advanced, his followers parting to clear a path, Marcus planted his feet firmly and raised the scepter high. Closing his eyes, he focused on the connection he felt with the artifact, letting its energy flow through him. Slowly, he directed it toward the heart, envisioning a shield of golden light enveloping the pulsating sphere. To his astonishment, the scepter responded immediately, sending tendrils of energy spiraling upward to merge with the heart's aura. The effect was instantaneous. The heart's colors brightened, shifting from erratic flashes to a steady, harmonious glow. Waves of warmth radiated outward, filling the chamber with a sense of calm and unity. Even the invaders paused, momentarily entranced by the sudden change. Kale snarled, breaking the spell. "No. You dare tamper with destiny." With a roar, he lunged forward, his shadowy form dissolving into a maelstrom of darkness. The air crackled with malevolent energy as he closed the distance between them, his claws extended like blades. "Now!" Lyra shouted, stepping in front of Marcus. She thrust her hands outward, summoning a wall of light to intercept Kale's charge. The two forces collided with explosive force, sending shockwaves rippling through the chamber. Cracks spread across the floor, and chunks of crystal rained down from the ceiling. Marcus didn't wait for instructions. Channeling every ounce of strength he had left, he poured more energy into the scepter, reinforcing the shield around the heart. Beads of sweat dripped from his brow, and his muscles screamed in protest, but he refused to relent. The scepter pulsed brighter, its light intertwining with the hearts until they became indistinguishable. Kale broke free from Lyra's attack, his form flickering like a distorted hologram. "You think your little tricks can stop me?" he spat, his voice dripping with venom. "I am the harbinger of a new order. Your precious harmony will burn." With a final, desperate cry, Kale unleashed a torrent of shadowy energy, aiming straight for the heart. Time seemed to slow as the attack hurtled forward, threatening to tear through Marcus's hastily constructed defenses. But just as it reached the shield, a blinding flash erupted, engulfing the entire chamber in white-hot light. When the brightness faded, Marcus blinked rapidly, trying to regain his bearings. The chamber was silent, save for the gentle hum of the heart. Kale was gone, or at least, his physical form was. In his place lingered a faint wisp of smoke, curling lazily before dissipating entirely. The remaining invaders hesitated, their confidence shattered, before retreating en masse. Lyra lowered her arms, her shoulders sagging with exhaustion. She turned to Marcus, her expression unreadable. "It is done," she said softly. "For now." Marcus exhaled sharply, leaning heavily on the scepter for support. Every inch of his body ached, and his vision blurred at the edges. Despite the victory, a nagging unease lingered in his chest. They had stopped Kale, yes, but at what cost? And how long would this fragile peace last? As the team regrouped, assessing their injuries and catching their breath, Ava approached Marcus cautiously. "That was incredible," she said, awe evident in her tone. "But are you okay? You look like you're about to collapse." "I'll live," Marcus replied, though his voice lacked conviction. He glanced at Lyra, who stood gazing at the heart with a mixture of reverence and sorrow. "What happens now?" Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked over to the pedestal where the scepter had rested earlier and placed a hand on its smooth surface. "The heart has stabilized," she said finally. "But the damage Kale inflicted runs deep. The threads of harmony he sought to unravel will take time to mend." "And us?" Marcus pressed, gesturing to his team. "What role do we play in all this?" Lyra turned to face him, her luminous eyes searching his. "You have proven yourselves worthy allies," she said. "But the question remains, do you wish to remain mere observers, or will you embrace the responsibility that comes with wielding such power?" Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Marcus exchanged glances with his crew, each of them silently weighing the implications. They had entered this mission seeking answers, perhaps even salvation for Earth. Now, they found themselves standing at a crossroads, faced with a choice that would shape not only their lives but the fate of countless worlds. Before anyone could respond, a low rumble shook the chamber once more. The heart pulsed erratically, its colors shifting unpredictably. Lyra's expression darkened, and she whispered something under her breath, a phrase in a language none of them understood. "What's happening?" Elias asked, alarm creeping into his voice. "The heart," Lyra murmured, her gaze fixed on the sphere. "It's calling out. Something, or someone, is approaching." The group tensed, bracing for another attack. But instead of hostility, a soft, melodic chime filled the chamber, echoing like a distant bell. Through the translucent walls, they saw figures emerging from the violet mist outside, beings unlike anything they had encountered before. Their forms shimmered like liquid starlight, their movements fluid and ethereal. They carried no weapons, yet their presence exuded an undeniable authority. "They are the keepers," Lyra explained, her voice tinged with both relief and apprehension. "Guardians of the heart. They have not walked among mortals in millennia." As the keepers entered the chamber, their luminous eyes swept over the humans, lingering briefly on Marcus and the scepter in his hand. One of them, the tallest and most radiant, spoke in a voice that resonated like a chorus of bells. "You have awakened powers long dormant," the keeper intoned. "And in doing so, you have bound yourselves to a destiny far greater than any of you imagined." Marcus swallowed hard, gripping the scepter tighter. "What does that mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The keeper smiled, a gesture both serene and unnerving. "It means, human, that your journey is only beginning." The keeper's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Marcus glanced at his team, their faces reflecting a mix of awe and trepidation. Lyra stepped forward, her radiant form glowing brighter as she addressed the keepers. "Will you aid us in restoring balance?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with hope. The lead keeper nodded slowly, its starlight form shimmering. "We will guide you, but the path will demand sacrifice." Before anyone could respond, the chamber began to shift, the walls dissolving into a map of the galaxy. Destinations blinked into existence, each marked with symbols none of them understood. "These are the fractures," the keeper explained. "You must mend them, or risk losing everything." Marcus tightened his grip on the scepter, feeling its hum grow stronger. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: there was no turning back now.